Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the voter, the viewer, to get a closer look at our candidates here in Frankfort and their view on the issues that are important to us. This is all leading up to the general election, which is Tuesday, November 6th. Today's guest is Eric Whisman, and he's a candidate for City Commission. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, glad you came by today. I want to start out with you here just to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you've chosen to run for the City Commission.
Sure. Hopefully everyone's getting to know me by this point, but I'm Eric Whisman. I am a native here of Frankfort, grew up out in the community of Bald Knob before moving to the city as a teenager. And I am running for the Frankfort City Commission. As you mentioned, this is my first time running for any political office or any local office. And I thought it's really important, and what spurred me to do so now is I just believe that Frankfort is sort of at a critical turning point in many ways from the standpoint of a generational shift that's sort of happening nationwide right now to the real potential for a lot of investment and turn in our community, and I thought it was just too important and too critical of a period of time for us not to sort of jump into the race and try to do what I've thought our community has needed for quite a while. So,
okay. So explain to our viewers who may not know, what are the responsibilities of a city commissioner?
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one question. What does a city commissioner do?
Well, there you go. Fire away.
So it's multifaceted, truly, and in Frankfort it's a little bit different. We always seem to be a little bit different, but definitely a little different than many communities, particularly because we have things like the plant board. So the Frankfort City Commission really administers the daily functioning of the city is the simplest answer, right? But that includes everything from our emergency management, like police, fire, EMS, down to the maintenance of our infrastructure, our roads, our sewer systems, managing boards and committees, things like the Planning Commission. They have direct appointments. They have direct oversight of the appointments to the people that manage the plant board, who then in turn make the standards for your rates for electric, water, cable, utilities. But beyond that, they really sort of drive the economic engine that is the city of Frankfort, and that can mean a broad array of things, of course, but it's really up to their charge to ensure that our city is viable and growing and has a strong economic base, and that our people are safe and happy in many ways. So it's a large task, for sure.
Yes, I was going to say that is a lot of responsibility. Yes. So what experience do you have that you think has prepared you for a seat on the City Commission?
I've sort of spent my entire adult working life to this point working in the nonprofit field and really managing a lot of these same type of concerns, if you will. I run the Kentucky Trust for Historic Preservation as my day job, and really what I do there is work to find new uses for old buildings in simplest terms. But beyond that, we're always looking to provide a new economic engine, if you will, an old commercial building, how that can be an economic driver for a small community, how a building, a space functions to then turn investment, to have employment opportunities, to have a desirability or an attraction to your community. And truly, I think most of that is what falls in line with what a city commission does or should be doing, perhaps more so, is trying to find ways to ensure that our community is viable into the future. So I've worked with a number of groups around town. I'm involved with many of the planning groups and sort of citizen groups that are concerned about Frankfort and the direction we're going. So I've been pretty much at every city commission meeting or board meeting for a few years at this point, involved in some manner or another.
Well, there will inevitably be a newcomer on the City Commission. Yeah. No matter who it is, there will be a newcomer. What are the advantages of new blood?
Right. It's probably not a straightforward answer. What are the advantages? But the simplest terms that I could use is just a new vision. Perhaps at the the bane of some of my counterparts, I do use the term that I'm the youngest one running for city commission of the slate of candidates. And you know, as part of that, I am sort of the token millennial, if you will. I was born in 1982, and right at the beginning of the millennial generation. And really, that generation are sort of the economic driving engine in the entire country right now, where they're settling, where they're choosing to invest and raise their families. Being able to have some perspective of what that generation is looking for, I think, really looking for a sense of community, looking for potential opportunity for growth and development on a personal level, as well as your professional and financial self and your family, are all big things to that generation. So sort of bringing in that perspective, but also just having some new energy, if you will, that can drive the actions of the commission is important, I think. We've had some folks that have been on the commission for a very long time, and that you know, over a period of time, anyone gets worn out with the same grind. So I think some new energy will bring about some new opportunity.
Okay. What do you see as the biggest issue facing our community right now?
Well, you know, it's twofold, and I say a lot that we need to invest in our people and our place, right? When you think about a community, it's two things. It's the landscape and the buildings and the people that inhabit them. And how those two correlate and work with one another are really what makes up your town. Of course, my historic background, we have places that connect us to a place, the historic landmarks that we all love that sort of define what we think of as our community. And Frankfort has a lot of those terrific places. But our biggest issue is that we need investment in both of those things. Our people are struggling. We have 1 in 5 that live in poverty in this community, and that's just not acceptable, I think. For this small of a town, we can do better. And our housing stock and our buildings really need some investment. We have a lot of languishing properties. 51% of the city is rental property at this point. And that just doesn't bode well for our future. So sort of as simplest terms, again, what I want to do is invest in those two things, in our people and our place. And really, I think those work together. If we invest in our people and our skill set and our work readiness of the community, that will in turn invest in the buildings and see renovation, and everyone will rise together, hopefully. So. Okay.
Well, speaking of new development, have you seen the proposed plan that City Vision's put together for
Absolutely.
Our downtown development, and is that something you support?
Absolutely. I had a large hand in that, and gave a lot of my opinions in the community hearings and things, as well as privately with the consultants, as I've known for a while. Actually, they work in the preservation field, and I've worked with them before, and was really pushed that they be the consultants that the city hired initially. So nothing in there surprised me. It was almost all things that I was saying that our community really needed. You know, I agree with really everything that was proposed. Of course, the hurdles are going to be, how do we afford some of those projects?
Well, that was my next question. What funding mechanisms would you support?
You know, to make those things happen, they're great things. I've been preaching for years that the old train depot can be just an economic engine for the downtown, and a great focal point, for instance. And fixing up our downtown community is something that will turn over many-fold in long-term investment. So we've got to be focused and creative in finding financial resources to make those things happen, right? I see a lot of private public partnerships probably in the future, as well as really trying to pursue federal and other local incentive monies that we can possibly get. I'd love to see the state, you know, really support Frankfort more. I think for a very long time they have not done their due diligence to support Frankfort in the way that they use the services, and I think a lot of that can be the City Commission pushing for better trade-off right there,
yeah.
So that those monies can be invested. But a lot of it is, you know, as the City Vision's people presented, that it's just some creative work, that some of the tasks and projects that they presented aren't really anything that are too costly. There are some that are very costly, of course, some of the construction projects, but something like painting the overpass bridge, which is owned by another entity, if we can work in tandem to have them paint their structure and throw on some of our logos while we're at it, it's really a no-cost solution that gives great returns. So hopefully we'll find some ways to make some of those things happen.
Okay. Well, and that all takes money.
Yeah.
So this year, the Frankfort City Commission right now is preparing to vote to increase tax rates.
Right.
It's something that's been done by our circuit court, our fiscal court, and both of our school districts. Thank you. Have also done that as well.
Right.
Again, this is more than likely a result of the increasing contributions they have to make for the pension, and then we have a lot of needs in our community, as you were mentioning. What can we do as a community to generate more revenue, so that we can minimize future tax increases?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. I was just reading the newspaper articles last evening about how do we compare with other communities, and as far as the city, we are taxed at a much higher absorbent rate, really, than many communities around us, and it affects the investment in our town. We can't tax our way out of problems, right? I'm not for that. We cannot just continue to tap on tax whenever we have a shortfall. We have to see the growth of our community. And I think a lot of that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, that we have to invest in the place. All of this comes out of either property tax revenue or employment revenue. Pretty much that's our two main sources for income for the city of Frankfort. Our property taxes have been sort of languishing for years, and actually I believe personally that they're starting to sort of decline as buildings are not maintained and repaired as they should be. And that goes to a workforce that is not here that even has the skill set really to attack those issues to ensure that the properties are maintained, and a lot of them are in sort of lower income neighborhoods that people just can't afford to do those repairs. So that in turn affects our tax base. So we increase taxes to make up for the margin of loss there. We've got to do better about using the incentives available to us right now. I know everyone necessarily doesn't want to go after the tax dollars, but right now I think our community is at a point that we need to use everything available to us. There are several federal programs that I've been harping on the commission for several years to do some tweaks and do some things that we could better access some of those funds for repairs and improvements to our community and our neighborhoods, and we need some new growth too. We need some new housing stock built, and we have to pull some people in to be able to see those things happen. But we've got to fix our place, right? We have to fix our place, and we have to educate and train a better workforce that is able to in turn create new businesses and things as well, so that we
I'm going to get to that.
Sure.
But while we're talking about that, is there anything the City Commission can do to help our Frankfort Independent School system?
Yeah.
They rely on the revenue we get from property taxes, and they lose out a lot because of all of the state properties and city properties and the federal building that we have. They don't get the benefits of receiving
I had a
revenue.
great meeting with Houston Barber a couple of weeks ago, and I understand that something estimated at $8 million a year is lost on property taxes. And we are the only community in the state of Kentucky that has more untaxable property within the city limits than taxable. It's more than it's about a 40-60 split that we only get to tax a small percentage, which in turn funds the schools. A lot of what I've been saying, I really think our city commission needs to do a better job at working with state government. It's pretty clear from the developments that have happened downtown that we've been hands off for far too long. We need to work with them to free up a lot of property. The state owns a tremendous amount of property that's really underutilized, if used at all, throughout the city, that could turn into private hands to see development in this community. It's sort of was bought up, I understand, throughout the years 60s, 70s, 80s, as places went under or weren't used, and the state was easily able to acquire them and use them for their purposes when they were much larger and really growing much faster. And that's not the case anymore. So I really want to work directly with the state government to unload some of these properties, put them back into private hands, put them on the tax rolls, see them put into our back into use for the community. But one other thing for you that I was talking to Houston about, something I'm really excited about that I've been sort of trying to make happen for a couple of years in the community is I would love to see our high school offer some, we're small, our independent school districts, so I think we could offer some things that would be a real draw to pull kids into the community, whether that might be sort of a performing arts focus of the school district. But one thing particularly, I would love to see us develop more of a focused preservation or building trades, traditional building trades program to teach kids how to really use their hands and construct and do what we need in the community.
Yeah.
8 out of the 10 fastest growing sectors of jobs in America last year were in the building trades. And we're not teaching kids how to do those traditional things like carpentry and masonry and plumbing and electrical as much as the need is. It's estimated that I think 10,000 workers will be short 10,000 workers in Kentucky within the next 5 years in those trade fields alone. So there's a lot of opportunity to fill there.
Yeah, so that's something that our local economic development group has told us that the availability of skilled workers is a major obstacle in bringing in new business to our community. So sounds like, you've already started answering the question, but what can the city commission do to address that issue?
Again, we have to invest in our people, and that starts at the very beginning with our kids, trying to create the workforce of tomorrow that's able to meet the skill and the need necessary to fill these positions. It hurts us quite a lot that we don't have the skill sets and the base of workers that are able to fill positions. And a number of businesses have looked at Frankfort and said, I just can't do it here with you all right now. You're not ready for us. Yeah. So they've went on to other communities. We've got to really sort of hunker down and use every available resource available to us to invest in our community as a whole. Yeah. So we can have some better tax revenues to plug into the schools so they're able to train at a higher level. And I think that we have a separate school board and separate city commission, but those two really have to work together, and one is funded directly by the actions of the other. They're a chicken and egg in a bit of a sense, but.
Well, another thing that our businesses are telling us is that even when they do find skilled workers, oftentimes they can't pass a drug test in order to come to work. This seems to be a problem that we're having not only here in Frankfort, but nationwide.
Right.
But just here in Frankfort, what can the city commission do to help our communities face this, what is coming to be an epidemic?
Absolutely it is, and it's affecting every community, not just ours. Yeah. We seem to sort of have the sense that it's worse in Frankfort than in some other towns, but in my talks with people, it's everywhere right now. I've talked to our police department. I met with the chief of police and was really asking him these questions. What can we do? What do you need? And it comes down again, I think, to policing power. A lot of times it's enforcing and being able to meet the demand for what's coming in and affecting us. And his words were pretty much, we're short-staffed. We are working at absolute capacity, and we need another $1 million for police, to recruit and to pay our policing staff what we need to be able to meet the demand that we're having. They physically cannot keep up with what's coming into the community, and whether that be drugs through FedEx or driving in from other surrounding communities into Frankfort. It's coming in multiple ways. But beyond that, I think we really have to have some treatments. We have to have some options available beyond just the housing, sort of homeless shelters and housing stock that we have available to treat this epidemic. We've got to have some, I'm excited, there's a group in the schools that's really working to have some very frank conversations with kids about why you don't do drugs, what the effects are, not just the 80s term, don't just say no, but really working with kids one-on-one to say, here's the effects, here's the long-term impact on you and your family and your community as a whole, and helping them understand to stay away from those. I think we've got to get it early, stop it from happening, and then have some better treatment and really police enforce as much as we possibly can. It's going to be a multifold attack, and I don't know that we'll ever have a huge impact. People are going to do what they want to do, but I think we can curb it.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and going to go to the plant board. While it would take a change in legislation, do you think the county judge and fiscal court should be able to nominate some and appoint some members to the Frankfort Plant Board?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. We sort of have some parameters that we have to work in, codified by state government, statutes from the 40s at this point. It's a bit outdated. And I don't like that we're confined to a fairly small area, 14 square mile area, to find the talent that we need to manage what is the largest, economic driver in our community in many ways. We need to find the best people for the job, whether they live in the city or just outside. And the way the city boundary goes, some roads, one side of the street is in the city, one side's in the county, and many people don't even know whether they are or aren't until they get their tax bill at the end of the year. But we need to find the best skill set that are able to sort of manage this entity to the best ability for our community. So.
Do you think there should be a designated seat for industry on the Frankfort Plant Board?
I'm on the fence on that. I've been asked that. I see the potential for some self-serving, and I don't like the way of that. There would have to be some parameters that would restrict, I think, the impact, which mostly our state and federal laws would do anyway for you serving on a board. So likely I would support it, but I would want to look a little bit more into that first. I think first and foremost, our municipality here is to serve our citizens, and that was what it was set up for very much first, but it impacts all of our industry here too. So having that insight might be a good thing. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about our Tiger grant. Frankfort got a federal grant for $8 million, specifically to fix the 2nd Street corridor. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you envision that the City Commission is involved in that, and what ideas would you have for that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. It's one of those financial incentives that I'm talking about that our community should have been going after for years now, but we've not done a very good job of really getting those funds back to our community. But I'm grateful for our new city manager and her experience in driving the sort of the engine to get a hold of some of these opportunities. So this is going to be matched by, it's an $8 million grant. It's going to be matched by $4 million of local funding, some from the plant board, in fact. And although the community is excited, a lot of that is going to be unseen. It's going to go into 100-year-old infrastructure that's under 2nd Street. Most of South Frankfort and much of the west side of our town run through sewers and things that are under 2nd Street and on around Taylor Avenue.
Yeah, we're amazed at things we find when we have to dig under the roads.
All the time. We have to use 100-year-old maps many times to find things that are still under the street. So that's going to eat up a large chunk of the money. But there will be beautification projects. There'll be new road surfacing. There'll be some new sidewalks. I actually want to preserve some of the integrity and history of that area. I've told a few people this. 2nd Street, for most of its history, was really this automotive corridor. Until 1937, if you wanted to get across the Kentucky River in Frankfort, if you wanted to go between Lexington and Louisville, you had to cross the Singing Bridge. And then 1937, you had to cross the Capitol Avenue Bridge, and then later on the interstates were built. But you had to come through the downtown core. And because of that, most of 2nd Street, including City Hall, were these really neat automotive buildings that no other community has. So I'd like to see us play up sort of the history of that area, including maybe reusing the old street lights to save some costs, and sort of hearken to the history of 2nd Street, but also to fix some of the needs there. It's a bit ridiculous that we can't seem to find a way to put a crosswalk for our 2nd Street children. The school that's been there since 1868 still doesn't have a crosswalk for the kids. That's ludicrous. So hopefully...
I'm there every morning.
Most everyone in the town is. Hopefully these funds will fix some of those very basic problems that we need to repair. And the Bridge Street light situation has been sort of messed up since the 50s when it was put in. And so hopefully that'll fix all that.
Okay, well, I think we're getting ready to wrap up. I have one more question. Do you think the City Commission...
Talked a little too much.
Do you think the City Commission, as a public government office, is adequately transparent? And if not, what steps would you take to
Absolutely
make it?
not. No.
Okay.
I'm frustrated regularly that I don't, as involved as I am, and I regularly try to seek information. I can't find out things. I don't know when meetings are happening. I don't know what's on the agenda until too late sometimes. We have the plant board here that's able to do much more. I think every city commission meeting needs to be live streamed on Facebook, online, somewhere. It's just not acceptable that you have to go down and crawl through the back door and be in the know to even find the back door because the front door is not open to attend a city commission meeting. And I've heard too many complaints of people saying, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I'd like to go and comment, but you have to sign up at a sheet at the beginning and no one tells me I need to do that, and afterwards it's too late. We can be much more transparent, much more open, and communicate better with our community so that we all have more of a say of what's going on. And I've been very vocal about the commission not doing what is needed to involve the community, and I want to make sure we pull people in. I think we'll get a much better result when we're inclusive of everyone.
Okay.
So.
Well, now is your chance. I'm going to let you look into that camera and talk directly to our viewers.
All right.
And tell them why you're the best candidate in this race and why they need to vote for you on November 6th. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. Again, I'm Eric Whisman. I'm second on the ballot. I would very much appreciate your vote. I'm new energy. I'm actively involved in this community. I have been working for years to spur new development and new potential in the community, whether that's seeing old buildings revitalized or starting new festivals downtown. I've worked to try to find some new ways to reinvigorate Frankfort. And as your city commission, I will continue to do that and find new opportunity and new ways to grow and invest in our community for the betterment of all of us. I want to be inclusive and have everyone at the table having the discussions that we need to have as a community about how we grow and develop, and not just the few people that have seemed to have driven much of the conversation in the past. So I ask for your vote on November 6th and hope that you'll entrust me to do what we need for our community. Thank you.
And if folks want to find out more about you?
Yeah. If you want to find out more about my campaign, you can find me on Facebook, Eric E. Whisman for Frankfort City Commissioner, or you can go to ericwhisman.com, or my phone number, email, and everything are out there all over the place. You can find me and call me or email me directly as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you all.
I know that our viewers appreciate being able to hear from you and your view on the issues.
Thank you.
Folks, it's Eric Whisman, and he is the candidate for City Commission. I want to remind you to get out and vote on November 6th, and when you're done voting, go home and tune into Channel 10, and we'll have live election coverage direct from the county clerk's office. It's election season, so it's time to get informed and voice your choice. That's it for this time on Meet the Candidates. We'll see you next time.
And if I have one other comment, everyone pronounces my name incorrectly, but you got it right today. It's Whisman like a whistle.
Whisman. Thank you.
Thank you.